Gaming and BS episode 106. Arg. Welcome to Gaming and BS, episode 106, mateys. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
Just one talk like a pirate day, and the whole show went to hell. And I'm Brett. I'm here to suffer through this with the rest of you.
Welcome, swab.
Nice. So when I played 7C with John Wick, just as a quick aside, I mistakenly said at one point I got elected ship's captain, which I learned on a pirate ship you never openly say at a gaming table, look, I don't want to be in charge here, because they will immediately vote you in charge. And I turned to one of the players. I said, "Okay, take the prisoner / stowaway person we just rescued. Take him in the basement." And they looked at me, and I'm like, "I mean the." John goes, "You mean the hull, don't you, sir?" I said, "Yes, I do. Take him down below to the hull in the thing with the brig stuff there. Yeah, take him to a hold somewhere." Yeah, my sailor talk. She weren't so good at the time. I did get to use run out the guns though, so that was fun.
Arr. 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 Let's move on to announcements, shall we?
Let's do it. Oh, good Lord. So evercon.org, we've got some events starting to populate. We've got some of our special guest stuff showing up there, the stuff with Ken Hite and folks like that starting to pop up there. Got a number of different local folks that are going to be putting out some really cool games. We're looking, hopefully, I got Kev Thulu and Austin will be stepping up to help us run some games on demand fun there as well. So hopefully we got some BSers in the central Wisconsin area who are willing to come to the center of all that is gaming in Wisconsin and hang out with us and start your new year off right. So go out there, evercon.org, take a look. Any questions? Hey, hit me up in any of our ways to get hold of us. Gaming BS, the Facebook page, email us on Evercon. You want to talk to me personally, I'll be happy to sing the praises. Sean, we have Game Hole. Dude, that's like, shit, it's almost October, man. That means Game Hole is like practically a month away.
It's like next month.
I know. Holy shit.
I have a deep shit, man. I got to get my...
Get your games prepped?
Yeah, a little bit.
See, lucky for me, I just wing it. So I'll just sit out and say, so, what do y'all want to do?
You're all together.
You're all together. And go.
Go.
I've got some new buttons I need to get made for us, and maybe a different banner. Shit, I gotta get off my ass and get that done.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
But speaking of banners, we've got people running under our banner, and our bonus BS episodes are covering the game masters who are interested in doing a little blurb out there. Is that true? Yes.
What about the what? Huh?
Oh my God, you're not even paying attention to me, are you?
I'm posting a link to the show.
Awesome. So, bonus BS.
Yes, bonus BS. We had one,
Yeah.
Monday.
So, keep going out there. We've got any other game masters who are running for us who haven't recorded blurb. If it's something you're interested in, obviously not a requirement. But if you'd like to record a little something about your game, get a hold of Sean or I, and we'll get you hooked up, and we'll put it out there in a bonus BS episode.
Jason Hobbs, we're talking to you, dude. And maybe Nick if he wants to, but he doesn't have to.
Oh, I did hear that Jen Brinkman and some of those Sanctum Secorum Dungeon Crow Classics hardcore dudes are coming to Gamehole this year, so that should be kind of cool.
That's the word.
That's the word. It'll be great to see Jen again. She's fun. She's a hoot.
Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Any other announcements, man?
No.
All right, let's carry on.
Random encounter. All right, got a few emails this week.
Shall I start off?
If you'd like, Brett.
I shall. Hey, guys, thanks for picking up the topic of PC safe zones. I enjoyed it a lot and took away some new ideas. Currently, I'm getting ready to restart a campaign after summer off. Having previously done some scouting and rescuing, the party is going to be part of a large effort to cleanse the dreaded slaver scum from the face of the land. The problem is that the dreaded slaver scum seem to have an army. I'm working on ways to incorporate small scenes of individual daring do into a larger picture of the running battle. I'm considering something akin to the 4E skill challenges whereby if the party succeeds X times before failing Y times, the good guys will claim the victory. Each success will get them a related narration of battle going well, and the failure will bring sorrow to their hearts as they watch their beloved NPCs fall to the sword. These mini scenes will be run using standard rules, though, not skill challenge rules. There would be like sneaking in the enemy's castle to open up the gates, removing the two-headed giant from the field of battle so the regular troops can have a chance, relaying messages through orc-filled territory. While I have bits and pieces of the concept starting to congeal, I'd love to hear any BS might have to contribute to the topic. Closing the circle, so to speak, I should mention that the party is doing all this to preserve their abode and the village where it lies. Failure could be a disaster. Cheers, says Edwin. So that's pretty cool. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Have a large running battle and then different ways to narrate it without going into excruciating, like Warhammer Fantasy Battle detail of die rolling and so on. Interesting. I have to noodle on this one.
Yeah, I would. I would. Edwin. Ed. Mr. E. I would set up like 4 or 5. Maybe 1 per character. And then set the appropriate skill, like focus. Almost as if you could have one based around each player character for their strength. So maybe if it's a fighter, obviously it'll be fighter oriented.
So if the thief has some roguey stuff to do,
right,
sneaky, scouty, he succeeds, then the party gets the upper hand on the next encounter. Or if he fails, he screws up, bad intel comes back, and blam, an entire regiment is destroyed. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have those, each one have their own little focus. Maybe they impact each other's, maybe they don't impact each other's, but they impact the overall scheme of things. So yes, going to what you are going towards, Edwin, is maybe if there's a party of 5, if you get 3, then overall there is a success. But because of the 2 failures, maybe there's repercussions behind that. Maybe, ideas would be more losses incurred, or maybe more casualties.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, maybe you lose a front.
Yeah, I mean, there's battles like that are crazy because you can. There's so many different things you can win, lose. I mean, you can take a hill,
right.
Lose the hill. The keep can collapse. You can have a crazy one-on-one battle with your party versus the massive 2-headed giant, and doing that raises the morale, and they win a decisive victory, and they're able to crush forward and do something amazing. So interesting. Okay. I have to think about this one a little bit more. I've done a behind the enemy lines thing before where next thing you know, the party ended up behind this horrible undead army, and they end up having to go sneak their way behind the lines and find the solution to the problem. And sneaking through enemy territory is a lot different than a large pitched army battle type of thing. So this is interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't recall the last time I've done something like this. It's been a while. Good stuff.
You have to let us know how it goes, Ed.
Yes, absolutely. And if anybody else out there has an idea or if they've done something like this before, hey, man, pitch in. Get on that G Plus community or write us and let us know how you've done it. And we will share your wisdom. Over to you, sir.
Michael Drescher emails us.
Don't do the whole thing like that.
Brett, you mentioned those damned encumbrance rules. As I've mentioned prior, I've been working on homebrew rules. Maybe for D&D to make such overlooked rules. All right, fine. Encumbrance. As I mentioned prior, I've been working on homebrew rules for D&D to make such overlooked rules, encumbrance, carrying capacity, exhaustion, etc. And I have some updates that you might want to incorporate into your game. My group is currently adoring the encumbrance by way of Shadow of the Demon Lord.
It's quick and easy to manage. Characters can carry a number of items equal to their strength score and up to a maximum of twice their strength score with disadvantage on strength and dexterity rolls, and their speed is halved. All items, armor, weapons, gear, no matter how small, are an item slot in our world, as well as every 50 coins. This has led to using the vehicles and draft animals and the importance of safe houses. I'm still working on making water and rations matter that isn't intrusively difficult to implement. Considering under the D&D exhaustion rules, PCs have to drink more than water skins full of water a day per character. Tedious. Thinking of using the Dungeon World or Torchbearer approach, but only time will tell. All that said, I applaud the use of bad reputations to attack the PC safe house. I've always believed that the character's actions should affect the world around them, and it has led to deep, immersive, communal storytelling and role-playing. Example, the party pissed off the cult of Tenebris and went to seek refuge in the elven city in the woods. This is the only settlement of the elves. The cult follows them, and due to some brash negotiations, they used alchemist fire to burn the city and forest to the ground. It was really dramatic.
Oh, that's terrible.
It was really dramatic. The party trying to simultaneously fight the cultists, put out fires, save citizens, and escape themselves. Ultimately, they got out alive, but very badly burned. The forest no longer exists on the map, and elves are no longer available as a playable race.
Holy shit. Genocide by player character. Good Lord.
As far as they are concerned, their brashness has caused the genocide of an entire race. Not to mention the cult of Tenebris now has a massive ash land to perform their dark rituals.
Oh, that's horrible.
Wow.
That's bad.
Keep
I
up
know
the
what
good
we'll
work,
do.
guys.
We'll hide here and burn their house to the ground. Sorry about that. Oh, boy.
Oh, no, Mr. Bill.
Exactly.
Keep up the good work. Awesome show as always, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Drescher. Oh, and speaking of, thanks to Steel223 for the review on the iTunes. Always appreciated. Love a good review. Thank you.
I don't know
much.
if that's Chris Steele or if somebody else's.
It could be. You never know.
Has a similar name as Iron as that one.
That's true.
Iron name.
All right. Next up was Chris Angelucci. Dear Sean and Brett, I subscribe to Lovecraft Easy mailing list, and their latest email touches on a new Lamentations of the Flame Princess product that may appeal to Brett. Ooh, you have my attention. Link in the show here. Bringing folk horror and old world mythology to your tabletop with a pale lady, 1,000 dead babies. It says 1,000 dead babies. I have not mentioned it before, Chris, so thank you very much. This is quite awesome. I am going to have to go check this out.
Do it!
I think something about 1,000 dead babies before, but maybe that's just, it's happened so often. I don't know. Anyway, interesting. All right. I like it.
Yeah. Thanks for writing in, everybody.
Absolutely. Are we ready?
I think so. Let's get into it. What's going on this week, Brett?
So, Kev Lovecraft had a little post on his Google Plus stream about magic items and PTs. Yes. Our listeners obviously have some of the best ideas and topics that we steal from and claim them as our own. No, clearly I want to give credit where credit's due. I read this from Kevin. I was kind of debating on a couple different ideas for today's show, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is really freaking cool because it's connected directly to something that just happened in my Avalon game with Chris Nizak and a few other and Kevin, as well as Tom Flanagan and Emily.
I'm waiting for the live action movie.
That'd be fun. So Kevin had put this. He basically, it's a link from another. Anyway, it's a link to his post in the Google Plus stream. Is a link to a different thing. Anyway, here's the quote that got me thinking. I wonder how to reveal the properties of such items to players' characters when they discover them. Spout lore seems like an obvious method, a la Dungeon World. But what are some other ways to justify conveying the information? Do players enjoy discovering things by trial and error based on description and any context available? Talking about magic items, special items, those types of things. I recall back in the day, you pick up a magic item and you'd say, "Is it magical?" And my game master, Eric Schaefer, would say, "I don't know." "Is it glowing?" "Yes, it is." "Ooh, that's magical." Then we had the common joke, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be glowing? About a 2. "Oh, sounds like a +2 sword." Hee hee hee. You know, thinking we're clever little high school kids. And then you find that ring.
You were just doing that yesterday. What are you talking about?
Mostly, yeah. So you find that magic ring. What does it do? I put it on. Does nothing. I jump up and down. Nothing.
Right.
I leap off something. I try to jump really high. I go without food for a day. You're just desperately trying to map this thing, which somehow determined is magical, to an effect that you know. So, Sean, we've talked about this a little bit with levels of magic and that type of thing, but there's something, it's very Grognardian, is this whole, you find a magic item. Ooh, I've identified its magic. What does it do? Well, it seems to have some necromantic yet enchantment and some abjuration. You're like, okay, it's a dagger. What the fuck do I do with this thing? So, Sean, when you're playing, do you have any of those memories? I guess let's start with there. Do you have any of those memories where you find that magic item, and then you hop around like a fool trying to use this Qual's feather token to figure out what it does? Or have you had any of those memories?
I laugh because I have, Brett, and it isn't wholly dissimilar, but it was a little longer than just yesterday.
A little longer than just yesterday? Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
so I have had those.
I'm bringing the fun back, man. That's what I'm doing.
Bringing fun back. Hey, oh. Now, I did in one campaign have a master list of everything that somebody would come across, and that I kept track of, right? Okay, so they found an item, and if they didn't identify it, they didn't know
what it did.
And I would kind of keep track of that. Who has it? What does it do? What page is it on? So when they determine, well, I'm going to try to use it, and they do use it, maybe there's a DC, if it's a DC-based game, to understand how to use it maybe one time or whatever it is, and they roll, and they flip the trigger, and it goes off, and it works, then great. And then if that's got a charge to it, I mark off the charges. Actually, that's what I did too. If they identified it, but not to the point of knowing how many charges it have left or whatever, I would keep track of that. So when they whipped it out and went, I do this, and nothing happens, and it's like, oh, hey, it's all out of charges.
I remember distinctly it being kind of fun to a point to try to, mess around, try to figure out what the sword does. I hack at a shield. Does it cut the shield in half? I try to stick it through a rock. What does that do? I use this arrow, kind of. Well, I don't want to waste the arrow. I try to shoot an arrow with this bow or whatever. I throw this rock at something, see if it explodes. There is a point, though, where the players are like, okay, how long do I have to dance around like a monkey, throwing things around until somebody just tells me what the fuck this magic item does?
I just see a montage, right?
Montage.
Play the Benny Hill song, whatever, yakety sax.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure there's a listener out there goes, who? What? What's a Benny Hill? Nice. Anyway.
Yakety sax.
Exactly.
Google it.
So when you're playing now, Sean, when you're running or playing, do you like... So let's take it from the Game Master perspective. When players find magic items, I mean, there's mechanical stuff. There's identify spells. There's detect magic and so forth. And there's the, hey, I'll just pick up the sword and wander around and hit stuff with it and say, hey, by the way, this is that sword I picked up that detected magic, Sean. Tell me how much damage I'm doing. Tell me if I get any bonuses on this.
Well, there's only a couple. There's like one huge major thing wrong with that whole scenario.
Yeah. Well, Sean giving out magic items. Yeah,
I don't give players magic items.
You're right. So let's say, were you to do such a crazy thing?
Oh, that does sound crazy.
It does sound crazy. Giving the players
GMs give out magic items? That's nuts.
I don't know what that's about.
It should be something to strive for. Because if you give it to them, then shit, like stuff's over with then.
Exactly. So
all right. Hypothetically,
hypothetically speaking, do you make your players kind of use the mechanics where they can, and then after that, it's just kind of screw around until they figure it out? Or I mean, is that
I think there's two camps that I can appreciate. One is you just tell them what the hell it is and what it does. After they either spend identify or whatever it is it takes to figure it out.
But they've got to do something. There's no, I pick it up, what is it? Oh, that's a wand of wonder. You expect them to expend some sort of a spell resource or something to gain knowledge.
Arcana check.
Okay, all right. They got to do something. Not just going to tell them.
You know, it's not picking up a sword.
All right, all right.
Well, it's not as intuitive as picking up a tool that is, oh, this is a hammer or this is a screwdriver. This screws in.
Got it.
Right? So if they pick up a rod, staff, or wand, that's what it is, but none of it, I mean, could be anything. Could be a stick.
That's true. I remember I was at Gen Con ages back. I was at a seminar Eric Wujik gave. Guy who wrote TMNT and Other Strangeness and the Amber Dice List and so on. And he was talking about a D&D game that he had run forever, and the players had encountered a gun. And he described the gun as a series of, like, one long cylinder with another kind of a cylinder-like handle and another series of cylinders with some sort of a protrusion. And the way he described it, like, oh, yeah, that is a gun. But he kind of went out of his way to never tell them exactly what it was because they wouldn't know what a gun was. Ha, ha, ha. So I'm going to obfuscate this. But there is – I honestly – so from my perspective as a game master, I have done the thing like, look, you find – depending on the pace of the game, how things are rolling, I rarely, if ever, tell the players, you pick it, oh, it's a +1 sword. Oh, that's a ring of feather falling. It may have an inscription or may have a thing to it, but I don't recall the last time I didn't make them spend some sort of a resource, either time, effort, skill checks, spells, something to figure it out. Even if I didn't have a very clear-cut mechanic, or if the identify spell for the game system was a little vague, I still made them do something to figure it out. I never just gave it to them.
Yeah, I think that is similar. I don't think I've ever given it to somebody and then back in the day, maybe, oh, here, you want a magic missiles, 20 charges, have fun.
Exactly.
Usually it's some kind of identify. They got to do some research. And then, if it's even when we did, what is it? The Lost Shrine of Tomashan, which is, I think there's a minor artifact in, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Oh, crap. Oh, man, I just got that.
We're just going through like half of it. Great, there's an artifact in it. Wah, wah. Even then, I think we wrote down all the powers. Like, okay, this is what it does. Okay, and then just started writing them down in a list. I would never do that now.
Remember artifacts in First Ed? Total aside here. In First Ed, D&D, and the Monster Manual had blanks. All your artifacts had blanks. They could do different things. It depended on what you wanted them to do as a game master. After that second edition and so forth, it was set like the Hand of Vecna does this, the Eye of Vecna does this, or the Rod of Lordly Might does this. But First Ed in the back of the old DMG, it would have it, and it would say blank, 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 blank. And then there's a list of things you could choose from, but it was always a little bit different. Everybody's artifact had a little different flavor.
I think a lot of that was just, there needs to be more danger in that stuff.
Well, you talk about this before as the wonderment or the, oh my God, this is really cool.
Yeah. It's
and
cool
there's
until
something
you blow your face off.
Exactly. There's a level of tediousness though that can come from letting the players dick around and try to figure it out and jump up and down and do this and do that. And you can kind of feel it when the rest of the group's like, come on, Jesus, Brett, stop doing that. Just use the hammer in combat. See what it does. I don't want to be a backbiting hammer. I don't want to be cursed.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. So I think there could be some bookkeeping involved. If you don't have a mage, you don't have a cleric, you don't have any spellcaster or a bard who knows shit about this particular blade, and you're using it in combat, and the game master says, okay, how much damage did you do? If I want to be super secret, you roll your D8 to add your strength and say, hey, look, I got 15 points of damage. Okay, good. And I write down 20. I just don't tell him I wrote down 20 because it's a really cool +5 blade. I just don't tell him that. That's bookkeeping on my side.
Yeah. That's why it's kind of like, I don't want to do that crap. So just here, you metagame it. Here,
Yep.
it's got 20 charges, it's +2 or whatever it is. All right,
Yep.
fine, cool.
The cool, I think you need to do something to make people get. This is where we've talked about this before. When we had our Bard episode back in the day when Phil and Chris challenged us on the Bards. And if you don't remember what episode that is, you start at 1, you work your way forward, so you can fully appreciate and understand the Bard episode. But the spout lore concept that Kevin's post alluded to is straight out of Dungeon World. I apologize, I can't remember where exactly Kevin had copied the post from, so I figured that out. I'll post it. Anyhow, the spout lore concept, Dungeon World, is you can say a thing that's essentially true, right? Oh, this sword was from the Dwarven King Kragnor, from the Great Iron Mountains. Oh, okay. It allows you to take and add something interesting to the weapon or to the artifact or whatever it happens to be. And I think the cool part for me when people do when they're expending the information, they're like researching the blade or doing something, and I say, well, this sword, I don't leave. Well, it's a +1 sword, and it was once held by the Prince of Thun and from the county of Trent or whatever. I don't do that. I lead with some of the backstory first. I lead with some of the coolness up front. So if it was a blade that was held by the Prince of Thun, and that's a thing that people, Thun, that's a principality that's long been abandoned. That was, the great traders from Thun or whatever the case is. Yes, it was held by the Prince of Thun during the battle in the county of Trent. Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. And suddenly that +1 sword is a really cool thing because it has provenance, it has history, it has something to tie it to the world. Dungeon Crawl Classics talks about this a little bit, right? Your magic items shouldn't just be run-of-the-mill. They should have a connection to something. Even something as quote-unquote paltry as a +1 weapon in a D&D, adding that flavor to it makes it cool. So what I've often done with my bards, especially to give flavor to them when they're trying to do a lore spouting, digging into it, or even a mage, someone who does an arcana check, and they do some kind of a resource spend, arcana check, magic or whatever it is. Say they don't roll so well, say they don't quite get it all. I always give them something like that to make it seem like a really cool thing. I think that's fun. You're nodding, you like that?
Yeah, man. That's good stuff.
So, I think where it kind of breaks, though, is when you have what the old schoolers used to call the Monty Hall campaign, where it's just too much stuff, where you had like bushel baskets full of, +1 broadswords or whatever your problem was. Sometimes having in a high magic game where, +1 weapons, whatever, you just don't care about those. I remember playing like that back in high school and even early college. You didn't bother with copper pieces. You didn't bother with gold. You only picked up platinum and gems because what did you need the rest of that crap for? Oh, it's a +2 sword. I have 3 of those back home in my safe house. I don't need this anymore. Very high, crazy levels.
I don't think 14-year-old Sean games would age very well.
No, holy crap. No, dude. I found
really
some character sheets from back in the day that I just kept for nostalgia purposes. Looked at it, oh my god, this guy's a monster. I would never let anybody play this character. This thing's a beast. What? How? It's only 3rd level. How is this possible? Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know the reference of Monty Hall, because you haven't been around since the late 60s, I think is when it was on TV. It's from
60s, 70s, yeah. Let's make a deal.
Let's Make a Deal. And you'd pick what's behind door number 1, what's behind door number 2. And it would just be stuff. Like if you picked the wrong door, there was nothing.
Or it could be just gobs of craziness, like, 1,000 cans of tuna fish or something insane.
I don't even remember.
I'm pulling it out of my pocket. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
I don't even remember the premise of the damn game.
Neither do I.
It's like 3 doors. I don't know.
I think there's something interesting, though, around when there's a certain point, though, I think that trial and error can be really interesting in a game. When they find something, oh, this is the blade that was held by the Prince of Thun during the Battle of Trent is when it was lost. Oh, that's cool. It looks like a +1 sword. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then sometimes you withhold a little something. Well, they didn't figure it all out. They know there's another level of something. Oh, it has an abjuration. That just has to do with the +1 or something. Or they've not figured it out. And they're like just trying to use it in combat. They're waving the wand around, trying to figure out what it does when the dragon attacks. Just we got nothing left. Let's pull out that wand and see what it does. You guys got a command word on it. We've been terrified to use it. There's something really, it's kind of it's very old school OSR or grognardy, but there's something that can be really fun depending on the game you're playing to have that trial and error just based on different descriptions and thoughts. Like, I really think this is a wand of magic missiles. I just don't want to use it quite yet because I'm not sure. There's something that can be kind of cool about that. You agree, or what do you think?
I do think that it should be mysterious and wonder filled. That's why I think like DCC comes into play and is really kind of awesome because, futzing around with magic, unless it's like high magic and it's more high magic is substituted more for technology in the world, like Eberron, I think that crazy stuff can happen.
That's another thing I like about 5e with the attunement rules for magic items and such. You can't have. I think basically what that does when I read those and I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this is a really good mechanic or concept to help me stop somebody from having 6 orbs of disintegration and 7 of this and 18 of that. You don't have the capacity, or it takes time. Again, it's a resource spend. You've got to do something to earn the ability to utilize this item or whatever it is. And I think it even goes beyond magic items. Even when you're playing an investigative game, like Call of Cthulhu or a horror game or any investigative style game, people are going to find stuff and they're not going to know what to do with it. And a lot of times in those games, you don't have the luxury of a identify spell or something. You're taking stuff like in the Trail of Cthulhu game. You guys found this really weird black oily crap. And you're like, okay, I know a guy who works in the morgue. Maybe he knows something. And you're kind of desperately trying to figure out what it is. And that makes the stuff not only my hope is it makes it a little eerie and creepy and a little more terrifying. No one can figure out what it is. It looks like it's alive. It's mutating, causing problems. But in those types of stories that we're telling at the table, those types of things, that trial and error, the whole slowly unraveling and pulling clues together and figuring out what this thing does, that's part of the entire game. It's nothing as mundane as, oh, I found a magic sword in this dungeon. I wonder what it is, and then it happens to be from the Prince of Thune. Great, that's a neat little aside. Maybe it'll come into something later. The whole concept around this game I'm running is there's stuff that needs to be unraveled, and there's items or poisons or liquids or something that you have to tear apart. And I think in those types of games, the discovering and the sorting things out, that's part of the fun for those types of games. And it shouldn't be as simple as, oh, I took it to a sage, and the sage/librarian/doctor goes, oh, this is the blood of Tsathogoa, and that's easy to figure. It shouldn't be that simple.
Well, I think it depends on the feel you're going for.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you want it to be mysterious, then i.e. it should be mysterious. If you want it to be offhanded, like, oh, that's the blood of a dying, those are the tears of a dying angel. Of course, that's what that is.
Yeah,
okay.
Something rare.
Okay.
Maybe you're not going to be able to figure it out when you're romping around the wilderness. Maybe you got to get to a library, and maybe it's a specific library. Like talking about driving the train.
Here's a great magic item. Y'all can't use it till you get to this library.
You got to go to this library. You cannot go to any other library. Talk about how it looks like you guys, if you want to use that thing, you're going to have to head over to here.
Well, what's there? Well, that's Blind Simon, master of ancient lore. You don't talk to Blind Simon, you can't get shit. Fine, we're going to Blind Simon's library.
See how easy it is, Brett, to just move things along within the D&D realm? Without, you don't even have to railroad them. You put things in front of them that they always have a choice, Brett.
Get on the train or get off the train.
That's right. They think, you get a choice. You can go and figure it out. And the great library of Sharn, because that's where the one tome that may actually have this. You can go to other libraries, but you're not going to find what you're looking for in those other libraries.
So
or
that's really cool.
Could even do it and then realize, the answer is not there. You got to go to the great library.
There you go. See, that's cool when it's big stuff, right? Those investigative games, which is an artifact level thing. It's it's an eye from a horrible lich. You're like, oh, I wonder if this comes off of Vecna, and you don't, or whatever it is, and you're poking around trying to figure that out. I think though you can still have some of that fun with the minor items, the smaller spells or weird things in a Call of Cthulhu style game where you feel like, oh, this looks like a ritualistic dagger. Whether it's magical or not, you're like, okay, at least I know what it's used for. It's used for ritualistically, slaying goats and parting their entrails for some weird scrying thing based on what this cult is doing. Okay, maybe we'll hang on to that. Might be handy later on, or whatever the case is. I think even if you don't do the whole, this item is big, you need to go to a specific library in Sharn. You need to do something quest-worthy to uncover what this is, which is a great, or I should say almost a classic kickstart to a campaign or a next phase of a story. I think even having the small components, you can do a piece where if you want to make the NPCs come alive, someone sees your character and walks up and touches you and says, sir, is that the blade from the Prince of Thune? And you're like, what? Is that really? Where did you get that from? Some antiquarian spots you. More flavor to the setting, more flavor to the story. I think it can be really cool.
Yeah, and then you start throwing people at it that need to recover that thing because they're maybe the guardians of whatever, and that's in the wrong hands. It belongs in a museum.
Exactly. God damn it, it belongs in a museum. So do you. Indiana Jones quote. Spoiler. Anyhow, where the hell am I going with this? So I like the cool thing about the spouting lore or figuring out something a little special about the magic item, whatever it is, it adds provenance, and then the characters have pride and ownership, and they like this thing. It's a magical ritualistic dagger they took from this cult where they figured out what the blood of Tsathoggua is, or they figured out how to stop the great evil sun god, or whatever they're worried about. Some of those extra bits and pieces, the blade from the Prince of Thune, it's not that big a deal. It was just a throw off. But if the player grabs onto that, says, you know what? My character's from the county of Trent, and I think I would know a little bit about this. And he pokes you, and he says, hey, what about this? Angela says, yeah, that's right. My family was involved in that war too. And next thing you know, Sean and Angela are talking about, hey, what do we do? How do we do this? And by picking up those pieces, if the players have found something that's interesting, you can build a campaign or a side quest or a mini story all around this silly little castaway idea you had for the broadsword of the Prince of Thune. It's only a +1 weapon as far in D&D parlance, but it suddenly becomes this really cool thing and a tie to something. And maybe it has to do with the fact that without the blade, the prince could never attain the throne because it's required for some crazy ritual or whatever. You had none of these ideas beforehand, but the players are feeding you all this great stuff. And by having them come through and figure out information and justify their, like, hey, I'm really interested in this. I'm digging into a library. I'm casting spells. I'm figuring this stuff out. They get these cool rewards that come from all that expenditure of their resources. But Sean doesn't give away magic items, so this is all hypothetical.
That's right. In Brett's game, if you want to have fun in Brett's game, Snooze Fest.
Nice.
Obviously, it takes place with some guy in the Prince of Thune.
Maybe it does.
Or Thune is a theme here.
Could be.
Yeah.
So when you run I should say, let's look at it from a player's perspective. Do you like having to mess around and figure out what all the magic items are, or do you just prefer hey, can I just roll and identify here and give me the goddamn answer?
Oh, man. I'm torn on that sometimes. I really am. There's times where I think most of the times I just err on the side of, here it is. This is what it does. Look it up in the PHB. Congratulations. It's just as easier to manage. Most players are going to want to use it. I think it just comes in from the days when growing up was just, we knew what it was.
Well, as a player though, that's a game master perspective. If you're playing in my D&D game, how do you want me to just give you that stuff after a simple identify spell, or do you want to jump off rocks and try to punch trees with this ring and hope it's a ring of the ram or something?
I don't even know if I'd play that out unless I was really
bored.
Yeah, I was bored and just, I don't know, had a lot of coffee one night before I wanted to play, and wanted to find out what silliness you would come up with to figure out what this thing does.
Just to see how it would work.
Maybe, I don't know. But otherwise, there's always kind of a campaign that I have in mind where I would like to get nice and dirty and gritty, like encumbrance kind of matters, because you're going to run into those issues, right? It becomes a story plot device. Or with the magic item, it's, again, you can figure it out and you can try, or it may blow up in your face. Or you think it may blow up in your face because you had that happen once before, and that's why your character doesn't have a nose. Or going to the Great Library, because that's the place they need to go to actually find out what the thing is. So it can be driven, just like in a lot of things in D&D. I think we hand wave a lot of stuff that you could actually drive
story.
Yeah.
I think some of it comes down to, we joked about the Monty Hall thing, but some of it comes down to volume of stuff. One of the reasons why I'll pick on the Trail of Cthulhu game that Sean and I'm running for Sean and the guys. The reason why a couple different bits and pieces in there are very interesting, or you want to find out more about this crazy black oil or what's going on with these crows and these feathers, you want to do that. There's not a massive influx of magic or insanity. It's a very small niche within the world that you're operating in. There's a finite, it feels very finite. At least I'm trying to make it feel that way. If you're playing a old school Forgotten Realms, or as we were joked with the Monty Hall stuff, where if you do find through a dungeon, you find 10 +1 swords, 6 +2 swords, and you're throwing +1 swords over your shoulder to pick up the +3. When it gets to that point, players, I think, excuse me, or I at least as a player, start like, okay, what is this? Just tell me. There's so much magic. And you almost feel like, look, we're surrounded by this. The world is built this way. Some of that, it's not even the wonder is gone per se, but I don't want to have to, every time I find a wheelbarrow full of magic weapons, I don't have to go to every fucking library in the center of Sharn to figure out what all this wheelbarrow full of goodies does. Again, if you're running that kind of high level magic, then chances are your mages and other people have ways to figure that out for you. But even so, I think that's where players and game masters start to lose the desire to let people figure things out when there's just too much. If there's too much stuff, too many magic items, too much power just kind of laying around in the Goblin Horde or whatever it is, when there's so much of it, it becomes boring to try to figure out every little bit and piece. You just want to roll a couple dice and have somebody tell you.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I think that's a method or an approach.
Okay, what would you do?
Handling magic items?
No, I'm just saying, do you disagree? Is that a bad idea? Where I guess I'm just saying that when it's a lot, when there's tons and tons of stuff,
yeah,
it just feels like it's so much like, look, it's a +1 sword, look, it's a +2 dagger, look, it's a rod of lordly might, just fucking move on. It feels like it's just kind of a cast, like you're just kind of chucking stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to play in that game. That's not a game.
Neither do I.
I don't really want to run that game either. It's just not. It's not my. Like, again, I'm not like, it doesn't age well. I'm not 14.
That's true.
The goofiness that's what made it fun. I just don't think that I would want to run that game anymore. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just, if you got a magic item, it's going to be unique. I mean, right now I'm like 9th level. I think Doc's given me like maybe 3.
Yeah, and you appreciate the hell out of them because you don't have that many.
Yeah, I do. Even though they're kind of a more curse than benefit. I mean, there's benefits to it, but it's like, I'm casting Fireball and now my character is afraid of fire. Like,
lovely. That's great.
Yeah, but I can cast Cone of Cold.
Oh, so I got that going for me.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, the other piece here that this kind of hit me, I think, is we touched on the bards, right? So one of the things that is kind of cool is that now in First Ed, there were no secondary skills, really. There was no history, knowledge, but you got that in the God, I think in Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, Wilderness Survival Guide, that type of stuff has started to creep in there, and in second edition had more and more. But now we have things like Spout Lore from Dungeon World. We have Arcana and other cool things. Pathfinder's got tons of skills. A lot of them really good games out there, some really, really good skills and so on. And every player, it used to be always just the domain of the mage or the cleric to try to figure out what the magic item is, which is why fighters would be like, fine, I put the ring on, I jump around. They're trying to do something. Now they're looking at it, and if I was a player as a ranger, I'd be like, oh, I find this blade. Okay, I'll take a look at it. Does it come from where I know? Is there anything about it? Is it, a leaf blade? Who makes them like this? I'm asking more intelligent questions, and part of that is because my character sheet tells me my character has this background. My character knows history. My character knows region and ideas and all this stuff. So there's a cool thing, I think, that, and I know people have done this for years, so it's not like, oh my God, this is amazing new world gaming here. But letting the players that aren't the magic wielders, letting the players that are, excuse me, the cab driver instead of the librarian figure out what this came from, or where this person could have been in Chicago, or where this weird tapestry happened to come from, or whatever it is, because the cab driver is involved in something. He has a past, he has a history. And using all these different skills, there's some really cool ways that players can have their characters, when they're getting into character, acting and speaking and doing as that character, saying, hey, I think I have a shot at figuring out what this is. Excuse me. And it's a really great time for those players to shine, where it's not just waiting for the librarian to always say something or the mage to always cast Identify. The rogue can pick it up and go, I know this ring. I've seen this ring before. It was on the hand of a master thief, and why not? He has Arcana. He has lore. He has some kind of a knowledge that he can use.
Does he? I don't know. Some games, they don't. Thief doesn't have that. There's fighters don't have that. So it's always the wizard, because the wizard's the only one that has that.
Yeah, I'm saying some games don't, but some do.
Right. Then you get into the debate of, I can't do anything because it's not on my sheet.
That's true.
Doesn't say I can climb because they don't have the climb skill. Then you get to and the thing is, you get a GM that enforces that crap, and it's like, damn, man. Yeah. But you know what, Brett?
Yeah.
I joke. I joke about the train, right?
Yes.
Railroad. Woo, woo. But there are game masters that may not railroad specifically in the true sense of the word, but they do dumb shit like that, right? They pigeonhole like classes, and maybe that's kind of what classes are for. That's the argument, right? Why would I play a wizard if I can't have the ability to be smarter than everybody else and understand the magic item or whatever that is?
Mm-hmm.
So I get that argument, but at the same time, a game master could loosen up a little bit. Damn.
Yeah, especially,
throw a bone to somebody, right?
You got a dwarven weaponsmith, and then you tell him, I'm sorry, there's no possible way you could identify where this sword was made. That makes no sense.
Well, if there's a tie, that's a little more obvious too. But
yeah, but I have seen such a thing. Like, nope, it's a magic item. You have to have you have to use some kind of magical way to decipher it or understand it. I'm like,
yeah. So
I'm not digging that.
I'm getting plenty of hate mail over here for railroading. Yet at the same time, some goofballs and then that game master, and they're like, here's the box, and this is the way it works, and I don't have any flexibility. And I mean, come on, man, let's get into the cool factors of stuff.
Yeah, and that's where, like you said, pigeonholing, that's immediately what came to my mind too, is that when you have characters that have a chance at figuring something out, giving them a chance to shine. Now, granted, there's a difference between letting the rogue say, I've seen this ring, I saw it. He was on a master thief back in the city. I think that's where I saw this from. And the mage says, let me see that. And then he casts his spell and says, yes, I could see where you may have seen such a thing before. In fact, this is a ring of, ultimate lockpicking. Oh, great. Yeah. That would make sense why someone would have that. Then they're combined. Now someone knows a thing, they have a clue, and then the other person says, oh, hang on, let me do more. Let me take my thing and add some more info to what we're investigating here. Because it's basically a miniature investigation at that point. Any and all ideas and input should be welcome. And then you guys sort through it. Yeah, sure, somebody has a spell or a mechanical device or some high-tech something or other that tells you what it is or what it may be able to do. But until that thing is deployed, letting the other players' characters have a shot at poking around, I think is really cool. It's a great way for everybody feels then a part of something. Instead of just waiting to see, okay, high roll gets the +5 sword. No, we don't want to play like that. What we want to do is say, where did the sword come from? What's it connected to? Would I even want to carry such a thing? It was, worn by a king who was, assassinated, or this was worn by a traitor or something. Maybe I don't want to hold that blade.
You know what I think I would do, Brett?
What would you do, Sean?
I would say that they come across an item, and at the end of the day, they're sitting around the campfire. And what they do is they have to play Baron Munchausen with each other, right?
To see who gets the pick of the treasure.
Baron Munchausen. So if you're not familiar with Baron Munchausen, everybody speaks like a British Baron Munchausen person, and they have to pass the item around. So the rogue gets it and then tells a tale of what the item is and its background and how it came to be in their possession. And then the next person grabs it and says, "That's not what I heard." And then they spin their own tale, and whoever's got the best is the actual truth. There you go.
Interesting. I think I like that idea. Actually, it's kind of fun.
That's a pretty good idea.
It's kind of fun. That's not bad.
Yeah, sometimes I surprise myself.
I think the other cool thing that letting the players get involved like that, all the characters get engaged, then everyone has a vested interest in this item. And it's no longer, I want it because it's really powerful. Now, granted, you're going to have players who are like that, or a character who's like that. There's greed, supersedes need sometimes. But by not just the bard saying, well, I spout lore, or, having the fighter say something, or the ranger, or the druid, or whomever, giving information about it, then everybody knows a little bit of something. Everyone has a piece of this really cool find that you have. Now, granted, if you've got wheelbarrows worth of it, seems excessive, but the way more game masters I talk to, the men and the women that are doing it, they're running it more like you and I are. And when they find this stuff, when people come in, they spout some lore about this really cool thing, and the thief says a thing, then the cleric backs him up, and the wizard says, "Let me see that," and finally casts Identify on it. Everybody's has a part in finding out how incredibly fucking cool this item is. And a thing that was simply a ring of +5 on your lockpicking roll now became the rings that were worn by master thieves out of Lankmar and And now it becomes something that's important. And it's very clearly you would hand this to the thief and say, yes, you should have this thing, or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of cool to that.
I think there's something to be said about predicting players and player characters' motivations when you play and you're a game master. So when you get the dickhead who is going to play greed,
yeah,
you just make an item where it's like, one must be of pure of heart and not greedy. And those that are contrary to that and seek greed has a special effect on them.
Well, that was the old alignment-based magic items, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, it's lawful good. Your catechy will pick it up and blow your arm off.
Right.
Type of thing. Not good. Cool. Anyway, that's what I had, man. I just want to kind of talk through that a little bit. I figured you kind of did it the way I did it, but I was just curious. And I'm also curious, as always, what the listeners have to say, too, because we touched on a bunch of different bits and pieces with characters doing different things, thrown in part and parcel here. There's still some fun in figuring out what the thing is, and I think sometimes rushing to the end isn't necessarily a good idea. Kind of like we talked a little bit with the jailbreak, starting imprisoned again. Don't remember what episode it is. Start at 1, work forward. There's some cool stuff in working through that piece of the adventure, identifying the thing, investigating the icky black oil that seems to be corrupting people, as opposed to someone just going, "Oh, that's this." There's something really cool about that. So anyway, if you got better ideas or anything like that, let us know.
All right, let's get into die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery you want to bring your attention. Brett's got 3. I've got 3. Got a couple from the listeners. Brett.
Yes. So I've heard about this before, and so I saw this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And it always it's creepy, but there's always something gameable, right? So basically, there are over 200 bodies on Mount Everest, and they're used as landmarks.
What?
It's there's tons of over 200 people have died in their attempt. And depending where you're at, there's like the body of Green Boots. It's an Indian climber who died in 1996, was believed to be a certain person, lies near a cave that all climbers must pass away at the peak. Serves as a waypoint marker that climbers use to gauge how near they are to the summit. So you take that idea and move it into something, expand it. We're talking a little bit of D&D here as is our want, and you say, what would dwarven miners do? Or elves, something that lasts that long. And in the great dwarven city, where they like, perhaps their ritual is the dead lie where they lie, especially after a battle, or you don't take a dwarven miner where he keeled over. You leave him there because otherwise you disrupt his ghost. You walk by. That's where Iron Boots died, pulling the last gem out of this part of the mine, and you just keep going. When you see Iron Boots' corpse or his bones or what's left of his iron boots, you're only a quarter mile from the entrance. There's something really, again, to that we just talked about with like the magic item component. There's something flavorful that can come from that from a world perspective. The other one I have is that some astronomers just dug up a 30-ton meteorite in Argentina. I read that, and I thought, yeah, nothing bad could happen from this. There's no way that the color out of space or any other horrible Lovecraftian evil could happen from this. So, yeah, anyway, there's just one more plot idea for your Delta Green game. And the last one I have is the Blood Shadows RPG, Fantasy Noir RPG, 3rd edition is out. It's on drive-thru. I remember Blood Shadows when it first came out. I never got into it. It's one of those games I looked at and went, oh, that could be interesting, but I never got into it. And it's only $14.95, $15. That's not a bad price. I might have to pick that up. But anyway, I know that there are some gamers out there who have played this type of thing, so I want to call it out. Sean, back to you, sir.
All right. First one, Mage Crammer. It's a new
Mage Crammer?
Mage Crammer.
Okay.
Is a new and exciting role-playing game from Druids of the Shore. Not Wizards of the Coast.
Druids of the Shore.
Druids of the Shore. That fuses the genre of fantasy and science fiction into a new kind of play experience unlike anything else you've ever seen since 1989.
This looks a lot. Yeah, basically this is a
Spelljammer.
Yeah, it's a weird hack of Spelljammer.
Yeah. Check it out.
Interesting.
It's making its rounds.
I see that.
10 lessons from real-life revolutions that fictional dystopias ignore. That's on IO9. Good gaming stuff there that you may want to check out.
Oh, yeah, those guys. That website's always got some cool stuff.
My last one, conceptships.blogspot.com to get your spaceship fix. So if you're running like Traveler, some other science fiction game, and you need some ideas on ships or ship art, check out that link in the show notes. There's some cool ones there.
That is some nice looking stuff.
Yeah.
We had a couple from our listeners. Joseph Fitz pointed us about some Ewoks for D&D 5e. Link in the show notes.
Oh, is that a character race?
It looks like it. Like it.
D&D 5e. Wait a minute.
But yeah, well,
Ewoks for D&D?
Yeah, looks like it. Little Ewoks for D&D. Anyway, take a look at that. They're Ewoks, man. I just figured our little Ewok Wayne, he's been kind of pissing and moaning because we stopped playing Star Wars. He's a little cranky about that. But now we might actually be able to get him to play some D&D because he can play an Ewok.
I think Wayne's recovering.
Is he recovering?
Yeah, he's been recovering. He's going through 12 steps.
There you go. Yeah, he's just down to drink. He's just back. He's just down to drinking now. He quit. He quit everything else. He's only drinking.
He gave up the blow and meth.
Exactly. I'll do it. Jim Fitzpatrick also pointed us to 6 tips for side quest design. Some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, I sense a show topic in the making. Probably catch that up in about episode 108 or so. So yeah, that's something coming. But yeah, thank you to Joseph Fitz, Jim Patrick, and again, thank you to Kevin Lovecraft for calling my attention to this idea about magic item discovery and properties and so forth. So yeah, there we go. Anything else, Sean?
No, but the sponsor for the show, GameholeCon.com.
Oh yeah,
check it out. Gaming convention coming in November. If you haven't heard from episode whatever,
like episode 1 till now, I think we talk about this every year.
Yeah, make sure you go to GameholeCon.com for more information. It's a gaming convention here in Madison, Wisconsin. We'd love to see you there. Brett and I will be in full force, along with some of our fellow friends and game masters and friends of the show, community members.
Absolutely.
If you can't make it, we understand. Just put it on the calendar for next year. And if you can't make it next year, put it on the year for the year after that.
If you can't make it there, dude, get it done, man. That's what we're going to.
There you go. Brett just said it. Get it done. Like, well, all right then.
Well, there we go. Cool.
What are we talking about next week, Brett?
Next week, we're going to talk about evil games. Talk about
games that curse you?
No. About running games when the purpose is being evil or acting evil or that whole I'm going to run a chaotic evil party type of thing. We're going to talk about that.
It's going to be a short show.
Oh, it's going to be a short show. Sean's answer is fuck that.
Chaotic evil games. Whoever wins the battle between each other wins.
Exactly. Anyway, we're going to talk about evil games. We'll try to put a little finer point on it than what we had here. So anyway, cool. That's about it, man.
Well, excellent. That's all I have to say for this week. Having said that, I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night. Good game and all.